Dear 10th class students, welcome to the new academic session 2021. As you all know me very well, I am Reema ma'am. Today I am here to teach you English literature. Students, as you have already finished your 6 poems in the 9th standard, now in the 10th standard, we start with the 7th poem, that is, I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. As you know that this poem is about free bird and cage bird. Black Americans, that is the cage bird, and white Americans, that is free bird. Now let me tell you about the poem. The poem depicts the story of free bird and a cage bird. The poem begins with the free bird and how he has freedom to go wherever, whenever he wants, and can fly in the sky because there is no one to stop him. The free bird enjoys complete freedom. The cage bird has his feet tied and wings clipped. He is prevented from flying away. Being afraid, the cage bird continues to sing freedom. The poem contrasts the two birds. The free bird interacts with nature and is happy. The bird in the cage is sad, but he sings and hopes for freedom. His heart is fearful and his longings are unfulfilled, but he continues to sing. His songs are heard on the faraway hills. The free bird enjoys the breeze, the trees, the winds, the lawns, the sky, and the fed worms, whereas the cage bird, with his wings clipped and his feet tied, continues to open his throat and sing. The cage has become the grave of the bird's dream. He still sings for the freedom. This poem describes and contrasts the living condition of the Black Americans and the white Americans in the last century. Now, students, you can see there are some main points of the poem that is written on the PPT. So you can go with these main points of the poem. So now let me tell you the explanation of the whole poem line by line. Now we start with the first 7 lines, or you can say first stanza of your poem. The free bird is flying along in the current of the air. When the steady onward flow of the wind ends, the bird lowers his wings in the orange sun rays of the sky and suddenly lifts himself to move up in the sky. Here the reader is meant to compare a free bird to a free person. The poetess describes a free bird movement in the sky. The description is made lively by using the verbs like leaps, floats, dips, and dares. These verbs express qualities of the freedom and birds enjoy. There is no worry, trouble, or fear. The free bird is a symbol of freedom, and thus well chosen verbs are especially meaningful because they contain joy and energy. The free bird dares to claim the sky means he does what he wants and is defined as freedom. He feels that the sky belongs to him. Now, let me have the second stanza. The scene shifts to a cage. Being in cage, the bird's wings are clipped and his feet are tied. Therefore, he can only stalk down his narrow cage and can see but little beyond what is visible through the bars. Therefore, the lone ability that is he is left with, he uses and sings. The second word is entirely different from the first one. The contrast is striking. The first word flies smoothly, whereas the second one's wings are clipped and is caged. Wing gives birds freedom to fly. The word and expression stalks, narrow cage, bars of rays, clipped, feet are tied, give a picture of the lack of freedom of a bird in the contrast with the joy of the free bird. The word "stop" suggests that the bird is moving in a creeping, unhappy way. The imaginary created of the narrow cage also sharply contradicts the open skies that were described in the previous stanza. Third stanza. The caged bird sings in a fearful tone about unknown things that exist outside of his cage and strongly desires to know everything beyond the cage. The bird's song is heard far away on the hills. He sings about his longing for freedom. The poet gives another 8 lines to the caged bird to express himself. The bird, with wings clipped, movements restricted, sings because his dreams are dead and lie in a heap at his feet. The words, fearful and full, make us realize that actually it is not a happy tune but desperate cry for freedom. It leaves readers empathic for the bird trapped in the cage, unable to experience the same world that the free bird has access to. What the bird says in the being heard all over, and what he talks about his desire for freedom. This bird is stepped and meant to be a metaphor for human oppressed in an unjust society. Angelou is certainly applying this metaphor to her life and the oppression she was witnessed as an African American. In fact, the poet voiced the pain of all who suffer from slavery, one kind or another. Now, the fourth stanza. The free bird recalls another breeze he has experienced that has helped him to fly freely through the air. The breeze describes the light and flowing winds that he has experienced earlier and wishes to experience again. The breeze and the trade winds go past the trees. The free birds like to go to take control of the sky and thinks of the scenes like the fat worms waiting on the lawn for him to feed on, and the branches of the tree to sit and rest. The bird means to say that he owns the sky. The free bird is brought up later in the poem from the second time. The instance describes what the bird is thinking about. The breeze and the fat worms in the poem represent hope and opportunity. They are metaphor for all the hopes and opportunities that the free people have that are denied to those in bondage. The ability of this bird to declare the sky as belongs to him shows confidence and self-assurance. The poet strengthens the depictions of the free bird as strong, confident, and determined by stating that he names the sky his own. There is no limit on his freedom. The sky does belongs to him and to all the birds like him. Now we come to the fifth stanza. The fifth stanza returns to the image of the caged bird once again. These lines paint such a vivid image of dreams that cannot be fulfilled. He stands on the grave where his dreams are buried. The shadows of the birds utter a shrill, nightmarish cry, standing on the grave of the dreams. The poet again reminds that the bird's wings are clipped and feet are tied. Though he has nothing left physically, he still has a voice. Therefore, he does only the things that he could do. Sings from his throat as loud as possible. The grave is the symbol of death and is rather grim. The grave of dreams is a powerful imaginary that suggests the bird trapped behind the bars is forced to bury whatever dreams it has beneath his feet. It shows an environment where dreams cannot be fulfilled. Instead of happy and positive dreams, they are nightmares that keeps the caged bird grounded. The tone of the poem here shifts to one of the despair. In the previous stanza, the bird took control of the sky, whereas the dreams the caged bird had were killed by its inability to experience freedom. By repeating the line 42 times in the poem, the poetess reaffirms the idea that the caged bird's desire for freedom cannot be contained. Come to the sixth stanza. The last stanza is the repetition of the third stanza. This stanza is repeated because Angelou wants to emphasize this part of the poem and be remembered. Even though the bird has been caged and his happiness taken away, he still has hope that one day he will, like the other birds flying in the sky, having freedom and happiness. This is the message that poet wants to portray, that one day everyone will have the same rights and equality. This poem, moving between the images of the bird, both free and the cage, and the feeling of hope and despair, ends with one strong and powerful word, freedom. This word represents not only the caged bird's aspirations, but also the aspirations of anywhere held back by whatever the barriers they may be burdened with. Angelou emphasizes of this words, points out the central theme that her poem is meant to represent freedom. Now, let's have the theme of the poem. Now, in the theme of the poem, we have three main points, that is freedom, slavery and hope, racism, earning for the freedom and equality. In Freedom, Slavery and Hope, Maya Angelou's poem revolves around the theme of freedom and slavery. The theme extends to the painful accept of the slavery, injustice, wrangling for the discrimination, segregation, racism, poverty, abuse, insecurity, and the like, and its consequences. The poem speaks about the hope that people have by the song of the caged bird. The readers also learn how Maya might have felt like a caged bird when in some way she was still experiencing the slavery. The poetess wants us to take home the idea that the people with the similar experience as her may feel the same way, like the caged bird who is not free but is not lost the hope. Now we come with another theme, that is racism. Maya Angelou here experienced the worst form of racism, discrimination in America. She felt that the black Americans were not as free as they ought to be. They are denied basic rights. There were a number of restrictions on them in the society. African Americans long for the freedom and equality. This longing for the freedom is expressed in the poem I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. The poet presents two birds, the free bird, a metaphor for the white Americans, and the caged bird for the African Americans. The contrast between the two underlines the plight of the encaged bird and his longing for the freedom and equality. Despite restrictions, he still sings of the freedom. And the last, earning for the freedom and equality. Another theme of this poem is earning for the freedom and equality. The poet rightly feels that freedom is the birthright of every individual. Wherever it is a natural state, captivity, it is an abnormal state. No one likes to be encaged. Even a bird does not. African Americans voice their protest against all the forms of oppression and exploration. They are unhappy in their narrow cage, which takes the form of racism, gender inequality, and powerlessness. The poet is hopeful that the voice of the caged bird has begun to be heard far away. It can be no longer be suppressed. Now, children, as you know, when we are studying the poem, we have a literary style, you can say figure of speech, or you can use structure and device, which are used in the poem. So over here we have different styles of the poem, that is metaphor, symbolism, personification, alteration, tone, imaginary, and irony. As you know, these all devices we have you have studied in 8th standard, 9th standard, and 10th standard. Normally, when we are giving the exams, some of the literary devices are asked in the question. So it is very important from the poet's point of view that you have to learn all the literary devices which are present in the poem. I hope, children, you have liked this poem very much because it is given a view how about a cage bird want to be free, free just like a free bird. And now I end my poem with thank you to all of you.